My feet carried me outside by themselves into the starry night, under the light of the moon that was emotionlessly observing people's sins. Cold sweat was running down my neck, and I felt a tension in my head as if someone put a deflated football in there and began to pump it up. Kagome hadn't come out after 10 minutes. Just when I began to worry, I heard footsteps. My accomplice walked out into the street with a grim look on her face. Have you decided? Decided what? I snapped at her, not looking in her direction. She's still there, waiting for you. Hurry up. Kagome smirked and passed by me, resolutely walking away from the warehouse. I had to be honest, at least with myself. If I'd really wanted to release Ellie, I would have done it right away, which is why I did. But we see where that got me. Can't imagine doing it right now would, land me anywhere better. Wait. Ran after Kagome. We were quiet all the way to the station, but I finally couldn't hold it. Don't you think that testing me like that isn't fair? But I achieved my purpose. I wanted to see how you'd act in a difficult situation. She sighed and slowed down. And you, unfortunately, did everything I was afraid you'd do. I thought that you and Moriyuki-san had been captured. What else could I do? And of course, first thing first, you ran to her. How would Kobayashi help you? That's because... Why do I even have to explain myself to you? I understand, Nico-san. Kagome said in an unexpectedly calm voice. I'm not even accusing you of anything. You're right. Kobayashi is right too. Everyone is right in their own way in this situation. But I'm like a compass. I can't just stay in flux. For me, the world is polar. I either put my all into rescuing my father, or give up and accept my punishment. What else can I do? Go to the police, send a complaint to the prosecutor, go to an international court? She laughed bitterly. Nico-san, you want me to obey the laws that they don't. For them, kidnapping a person is a trifle, and yet you're ready to crucify me for it? I'm not going to crucify anybody. You just don't understand that I've been facing a choice here. It's all or nothing. And it's not even about being a radical. They forced these rules on me. I'd already noted that she was constantly talking about them, some disembodied figures. Obviously she meant the corporation, Kobayashi Jun, and even Ellie, but that impersonal pronoun gave it an unnecessary philosophical spin. But do you understand that in the end there are very real and specific people who suffer for it? Ellie is suffering. And I'm not? Kagome stopped, shouted, waved her hands as if trying to slap someone invisible, and burst into tears. I felt sorry for Ellie even now. But seeing Kagome like this, it was getting more and more difficult to emotionlessly assess her actions, judge her only from the perspective of a civil society. I came closer, hugged this tired, trapped girl, and pulled her close to me. Nico-san, why are you doing this? Doing what? Why do you run to her first? Do everything so that I'd hate you. And now... She seemed to be crying more out of exhaustion than anger. At long last, all the emotions that had been suppressed by anger and wrath found their way out. Nico-san, it's not fair. I was hugging Kagome, looking over her head into the night at the station, seeing the last trains leaving. I wanted this moment to last as long as possible. If not for Ellie and the corporation, we, most likely, wouldn't have met each other. The string of accidents that many people call fate brings completely different people together. And not just that, it puts them together in the same boat, so they can only reach the shore through their combined effort. What about my feelings? In reality, I was no longer facing a choice between Kagome and Ellie. I had turned Ellie down earlier. The choice now is between Kagome and common sense. Kagome or myself? You're asking me to do something I'd never done under different circumstances. And for a different person? Kagome sobbed. What do you mean? I pretended that I didn't understand her. If Kobayashi asked you to help kidnap someone? She wouldn't. I smirked, but Kagome grabbed my jacket tighter and pulled it down. You only think about yourself. If I really was, I wouldn't even be here for one. But I didn't say anything out loud and instead kept playing the role of Kagome's support. What are you planning to do next? It was getting too cold to keep standing in the same place. Tomorrow. Kagome turned away from me, took a step back, wiped her eyes, and shook her head. Tomorrow we'll act according to the plan. I hope you have one. Luckily, it wasn't that late, so we made it to the station in time to have to call a taxi. I really didn't want to sit next to Kagome for another hour or two. I deliberately took the seat opposite her, and we didn't even look at each other the whole way back. Perhaps we were accomplices now, but I still need some time to digest everything. The house greeted us with the deafening sound of Moriyuki-san's snore. Where were you hiding him? What does it matter? Kagome shrugged, took off her shoes, and walked past me to the kitchen. I lingered a bit, thinking of what to talk about with her for the rest of the evening. We wouldn't just sit quietly until bedtime, would we? But Kagome had already started cooking dinner. I didn't want to eat it all, but I wanted to disappoint her even less, so I didn't say I wasn't hungry. You know, all this reminds me of a film somehow. Or its never-released sequel, to be more precise. The protagonists have defeated all the world's evil and returned to their normal lives in their 6 tatami apartment. Ever thought about where they get the money from? Who pays them their salary? I'm not interested in comics, she replied in a bored voice. And manga? Kagome seemed somehow unreachably mature to me. There I was, with my comics and manga. Eat. Finally, the simple dinner was ready. Kidnap or not, you still need to eat. How did Ellie feel, eating once a day? These thoughts made me sick. I couldn't even look at the food. You don't want it? Got a stomachache. Why all of a sudden? I don't know, it just hurts. I abruptly stood up, but immediately froze. Thank you. I'll eat it in the morning. Then I quickly walked to my room. Maybe I was just punishing myself over and over for my indecisiveness. There should be a certain script for detective stories in real life, right? In the end, Kagome, both a victim and a criminal, and I, hopefully just a witness, were living under the same roof. Ellie couldn't be blamed for anything, but seemed to be suffering more than anyone else. Only Kobayashi-Jun seemed to be following the script properly. People aren't interested in boring truth, and always prefer a complicated explanation to a simple one. Somehow it seems to us that the abundance of details, as well as the twisted plot, are more trustworthy than a boring everyday story. Kidnapping Ellie was a detective story, but the rest, although it looked like a tragedy to me, would have probably resembled a comedy to an outsider. But if my role really wasn't written in a script somewhere, could I change it? That's an interesting line. What comes next, boy? 9:26, baby. Kagome's plan was ridiculously simple. We just had to wait for them to leave the documents in a mailbox, grab them, and then get out of there as quickly as possible. Yeah, because they definitely won't have eyes on the mailbox. She spent a good deal of time looking for a mailbox she could force open easily. Even in theory, it all seemed dangerous. I'd woken up before Kagome did and was already sitting in the kitchen, idly poking the cold dinner I'd ignored yesterday with my chopsticks. It was Saturday, which meant that apart from enacting Kagome's suicidal plan, I had absolutely nothing to do. She finally appeared in the kitchen around 8 o'clock. She passed by me on her way to the bathroom, yawning, but stopped in the doorway. Nico-san, you're up early today. Good morning. Good morning. You're a bit late. Mariki-san already woke up and left to meet his friends. She looked at me confused. Didn't you know? No, of course I did. He told me. I let him go. I barely held back a giggle. Even considering her grandfather's age, this treatment was still a little condescending. What? Do you want to say something? Nothing. Nothing at all. Kagome decided not to cook anything, but instead just heated up yesterday's dinner. By then I'd already had my share of it. Her cooking deserved the highest praise, even cold. So, having finished breakfast, Kagome slowly looked around, as if searching for a spy hiding in the kitchen. So, let's go through our plan once again. Except it doesn't sound much like a plan, more like a suicide attempt. She frowned. What do you suggest then? At the very least, we need a car. Do you have a driver's license? I didn't respond immediately, having anticipated Kagome's reaction. I don't, but I know someone who has both a license and a car. And that someone is... She drawled questioningly. Kyosuke. I answered briefly, stood up and walked back and forth around the kitchen, avoiding looking her in the eyes. Couldn't you come up with a better idea? Kagome suddenly snorted. Not in such a short amount of time. Think for yourself. We wouldn't have any chance escaping pursuit on foot, but a car would give us an advantage. Do you really believe that they won't be able to catch up to a car? I finally stopped and looked at Kagome. She was observing me carefully, but she didn't look angry. Of course, a car won't be a silver bullet, but with it we at least have a chance. I didn't like the plan from the very beginning, but you'd do anything for Kobayashi's sake. She didn't let me finish, although I didn't know what I was going to say in the first place. If it helps us get everything over and done with quickly and return to a normal life. What is it that you're going to do next, Nico-san? Kagome kept asking questions in a tone that sounded like the conversation didn't concern her at all. Graduate from school and live somehow. I didn't want to talk about what would happen next, because there were too many unresolved matters at hand. But you consider that Kobayashi is right, that her grandfather won't forgive us for kidnapping his daughter, no matter whether we eventually let her go or not. We. I mocked her, counting my steps. But Nico-san, Kobayashi saw you too. Do you enjoy saying that? Not at all. I'm disgusted to see you scrambling around. Scrambling? Why not finish the job first, then figure out how to live? The worst part was, she was correct. I'd have to resolve the matter one way or another, then bear responsibility for it. Not only for myself, but also for Kagome. And there was no way to escape that, even if I decided to stay home. That's why I'm saying we might need help. I want to be done with it and stay alive, and out of prison if possible. Apparently she was quite against involving Kyosuke. Was he the problem, or did Kagome not want to drag any strangers into this? What if I had someone else, not Kyosuke? Who then? She smirked, stood up and began to collect the plates. I don't know what you're hoping for, but to me the future appears quite grim. What is revenge beyond satisfying our primal instincts? It's a signal to others to not treat us that way. If Kobayashi Jun lets his enemies get away with things like kidnapping his granddaughter, how long would he stay at the top? Fine. It's not just about protecting his honor, but also the interests of the corporation. Fine. What would its head look like if... Fine! Kagome shouted. What? If you think we need a car, let's get a car. Just spare me the lectures. Alright. I really wanted to prove I was right, even though I realized there was no point to it. Well, why are you standing there? Go and call your friend. I had to seize the moment, so I ran to the phone. Kyosuke listened to my plan unexpectedly, calmly, not interrupting me even once, and only asked if we were sure about our plan. I had to say that we'd never been more sure about anything, and that the plan was rock solid with no weak points. I didn't know what to extent he really wanted to help me, and to what extent it all seemed like a game to him, but under different circumstances, I, of course, would have never dragged Kyosuke into such a dangerous affair. If I only had a choice. Wait, Kyosuke knows? Like, you told him everything? Like, I came back to the kitchen where Kagome was pensively fiddling with a balaclava, trying it on this way and that. I see you're prepared. Looks good, huh? I made it out of a ski mask. On the one hand, the idea seemed to be prudent and logical. On the other, the mask looked ridiculous, as if it came from a kid's manga. Did you arrange everything with him? I did. Then what are you unhappy about? I doubt he understands how dangerous it is. The car was your idea. I know, but still. Fine, what next? Fuck, I don't know, dude. We're waiting for Kyosuke, sitting on my porch. He must be from a wealthy family, if he has a license and a car at his age. I like to count other people's money. I'm just stating a fact, Nico-san, she said with feigned indignation. I guess I really had never been an envious person, but Kagome... Yesterday's fight with Ellie clearly showed she believed life had been unfair to her, to say the least. Soon I heard the sound of a running engine. Kyosuke's car stopped at the gate, and for some reason, he honked at us. Why are you honking? We're coming. Kyosuke awkwardly got out of the driver's seat, ran to the passenger door, and moved the seat back so that we could get in. Nick, you Amaro-san? He gave us a dumb smile. Kagome only nodded silently in response. There was one more problem. A big problem. Kyosuke didn't know that we were the ones holding Ellie captive. What? Moreover, I had no idea how to tell him. What did you tell him the plan was? Hey, we need to go get mail from a random-ass mailbox, and you need to drive us off ASAP. And he agreed to it? Like, what did you tell him? What did you tell him? Kyosuke-san, about Kobayashi. Kagome suddenly spoke, as if she was about to explain something insignificant. Wait. I whipped my hands at her, grabbed Kyosuke by the shoulder, and pulled him aside. Heck? Looked at me perplexed. See, the thing is, you heard Ellie's missing, right? Of course you have. Well, it turns out we know where she is, but don't worry. His facial expressions grew more and more focused as I spoke. And we'll inform her grandfather about that once we get the documents we need. Are you saying that Ellie-sama was kidnapped by Amaro-san? I sighed desperately and closed my eyes. But she's okay. Of course, everything's fine. Kyosuke remained quiet for a moment, clearly thinking of what to say. Nick, I was glad to help you if it was for a good cause, but this is too much. Kidnapping a person, especially Ellie-sama. I stopped my foot angrily. Well, what do you want from me? I only found out a few days ago. You've got to understand, it's too late to retreat. Even if we were released her now, what would we achieve? If everything works out and we get the documents, we'll at least have a guarantee we're safe. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten involved in the first place, but what's the point of talking about it now? It's not like I can convince Iwamura. Are you doing this for Iwamura-san? He asked me in an unexpectedly adult tone. I'm also in danger. Nick, that's not what I'm talking about. It was hard for me to answer Kyosuke's question. And not even because I didn't want to deceive him. I just didn't know the right answer either. Like when you're not sure of yourself before an important exam. even if that's true, what does it change? Well, it might alleviate your guilt a bit, since you're doing it all for love. Quiet, you. I hissed at him and looked at Kagome. She was just examining Kyosuke's car with a bored look on her face. Nobody here was talking about love. We're just companions in misfortune, in a sense. I couldn't tell Kyosuke that Kagome had made me her accomplice without my consent. Your usual self, huh, Nick? What about Himitsu-san? Catherine-san? Who gives a fuck about Catherine? Like, yeah, I do feel guilty about Himitsu. I will be upfront about that one, but, enough already. I put my hand over his mouth and let out forced laughter to conceal my own awkwardness. I kind of figured that was the case. She was just sitting in the back there, but like... We stopped in the street next to the one with the mailbox we needed. I couldn't imagine what the people that solve problems for Kobayashi Corporation would do. Were they just going to wait patiently, then capture and torture us to find Ellie's location? That kind of seemed like the case. Then the so-called plan of Kagome's made their job significantly easier. So, Nick? Kyosuke was visibly nervous. What? Nick-san, we did this according to the plan. According to the plan. We had to drive to the mailbox, quickly retrieve the documents, and floor it out of there. You know, this doesn't seem like such a good idea to me now. Do you have any better suggestions? No, but... I sighed and looked at Kyosuke. He sat with his hands tightly gripping the wheel, pretending to carefully study something in the distance. If we get caught and they'll start to beat information out of us. Are you sure you can keep it in? Can't say with any confidence I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't see a point in playing the hero. It's not even about that. After we tell them where Ellie is, do you think they'll just let us go? Why do you always think about failure? Because that's how humans are. We consider the chance of failure first. If people didn't think like that, there wouldn't be anybody to enjoy all the future successes. Fine, just sit here. I'll go myself. She tried to squeeze past me, but it was impossible to do so in such a small car. I'm not letting you go alone. I'm not telling you to go alone, just... Oh, whatever. Kyosuke, get us closer. We stopped at the start of the street with the mailbox. It was a normal Saturday morning in a quiet Tokyo suburb. There was no one outside. Everything was serene and quiet. I don't see anybody, Kagome said impatiently. I also haven't noticed anyone following us. Do you think the people working for the corporation are amateurs enough that they'd let us spot them? I immediately remembered Kagomade. Nico-san, I think we'll change if we just stay here and wait. If we get caught, then we will. Nick, I'm ready whenever. The fact that Kyosuke is still down with it, you know what? I can respect that, big homie. Kyosuke grabbed the wheel tighter. Couldn't quite find the courage yet, but some invisible force was keeping me in the car. My legs felt like jelly, and my hands desperately didn't want to grab the handle to open the door. What was the point of being afraid when we were almost at the goal? If they were following us by now, they would already know who was behind Ellie's kidnapping, which meant we had no chance to escape either way. Alright, fine. I exhaled and gripped my mask. How long are you going to keep dragging your feet? I turned around and realized that judging by Kagome's facial expression, I wouldn't manage to hold her off any longer. She literally fought her way past me, waving her arms and kicking her legs, and ran to the mailbox, forgetting the balaclava in the car. Maybe she hadn't forgotten and simply stopped caring if whoever was watching us recognized her. I swallowed desperately, trying to suppress the lump in my throat. Then I turned my gaze to Kyosuke. He sat behind the wheel, gripping it tightly, as if he was drowning and it was a life buoy. When Kagome reached the mailbox, quickly opened it, searched its inside, looked back at us. I could tell by her facial expression that it was empty. She examined the mailbox again, took out several letters and newspapers, almost put her head in there, but to no avail. Finally, I came to my senses and started waving my hands desperately, urging her to get back in the car. Fortunately, Kagome noticed and stopped her pointless search. It was happening as if in slow motion, her hair flapping in the wind, her heels flying high over the pavement, with every step, just a little bit left. Drive. I whispered, unable to speak louder. What? Kyosuke didn't hear me clearly. Drive. I don't know what's happening, but we've got to get out of here as soon as possible. Thank God Kyosuke understood the second time. His car tires squealed and he drove toward Kagome. Get in! I had no time to move the seat back, so I just hopped out of the car, grabbed Kagome in my arms, and hopped back in together with her. Of course it was a setup, you fucking idiots. No one was pursuing us, which was strange in itself. We decided to stay in Kyosuke's apartment. Maybe it wasn't the best option, but since I dragged him into it anyway. The whole plan turned out to be an absolute disaster, and most importantly, it was a complete mystery why nobody was there waiting for us. Maybe you just got the wrong place? Kyosuke asked timidly. I stared at him angrily. Kagome did the same. Every one of us seemed to want to say so much that nobody knew what to start with. Maybe you two would like something to drink? I have cola and iced tea. Water too, actually. Kyosuke managed to somehow ease the tension. When he walked out of the room, I took the initiative. I told you it was a shitty plan. We're alive. What more could you ask for? Kagome snapped morbidly, and without any hesitation fell into Kyosuke's bed. Apparently Kobayashi-Jun has it figured all out. What makes you think that? No one else would be that interested in Akira Shinji. Of course, there was still a chance that he had been kidnapped by Irina and co., but they could have done that much sooner without involving Ellie. We have only made the situation worse. What do you mean? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. I walked back and forth across the room, constantly stumbling over things strewn about the place. Maybe you shouldn't have tried to get your father out that way. Easy for you to say. Kagome replied even too calmly. True, as a person who had nothing left to lose, it was hard for me to argue with her. If my parents hadn't died in that car accident, and their lives had been in danger, would I have been standing there, all-knowing and brave? Fine, I understand, but... Here I am! Kyosuke opened the door with a kick and entered the room holding a tray with glasses. Get something to eat, too. What would you like? He gave me a silly smile. Whatever you have, as much as possible. After Kyosuke left again, I continued. Nobody followed us, at least they haven't captured us. Kagome seemed to be completely lost in thought. Doesn't it surprise you at all? Should it? Yes, it should. God damn it! What are we supposed to do next? I wish I knew the answer. This morning I'd been ready for anything. They would be taken captive, that there would actually be documents in the mailbox, that we'd find nothing, but in the end, I couldn't find it in me to come to terms with what had happened and moved on. If it was some great plot of Kobayashi-Jun's, it was beyond my understanding. Although it rather looked like a sequence of absolutely unbelievable coincidences. Kagome remained stubbornly silent. Didn't you even allow for the thought that your stupid idea might fail? Stupid. She repeated it quietly, and it seemed she was ready to cry. Okay, don't. That's not what I meant. I mean, to be honest, I was pretty bad at comforting people. Yes, I could repeat formal apologies and dole out supporting words like a record, but it always seemed empty and fake to me. My blabbering wasn't going to help bring her father back, even if it was genuine. Besides, I kept going at her for that stupid plan of hers, even though I knew it was pointless, and I wasn't really offering an alternative. Perhaps it was really worth a shot, but we tried, and it didn't work, and we have to move on somehow. I'm really worried by the fact that we were basically ignored. Nobody gave us the documents, followed us, or tried to capture us. Maybe Kobayashi-Jun never got the letter in the first place? As if I was talking to myself. If that's the case, we might be quite lucky. Lucky, Nico-san? Kagome asked maliciously, finally looking up at me. You don't seem to care at all about what happens to my dad. If I didn't care... I was about to shout at her, but managed to get my emotions back under control at the last moment. You think I'd be standing here? I'm only doing it for Kobayashi's sake. And it's for Kobayashi's sake that I left her tied up in that fucking warehouse, right? Kagome again deemed it unnecessary to respond. Thinking about it, I really didn't know what I was risking my life for. Especially by following Kagome's stupid plans. Asking for a ransom in a mailbox? Who would even think of this? This saying, Kyosuke returned. I don't want to interrupt, but... Then don't interrupt, we exclaimed as one. Kyosuke closed the door while I looked at Kagome and smiled. Maybe she wanted to return the smile, but she held herself back. Since we mentioned Ellie... So it is about Kobayashi. She interrupted me and abruptly stood up. We should at least go check on her. You go if you need to. I expected more or less that reaction, but still sighed on reflex. Do you understand that aside from not getting our letter, the second most logical assumption would be that the corporation has already found Ellie? That's why they didn't even bother to catch us. In reality, I didn't believe that myself. Kobayashi-Jun was a very consistent person and would avenge the kidnapping of his granddaughter one way or the other. Or even that they found Ellie, but they don't know that we were behind the kidnapping. Yet. Then time works against us. Stay here, I'll call you later. I rushed to the hall, quickly explained everything to Kyosuke, and asked him to look after Kagome. Yeah, because that's going to work. If Kagamoto and his colleagues had already found Ellie, they'd soon start hunting us down. I didn't know what to do in such case, but I was sure that forewarned is forearmed. This time I was heading for that damn warehouse in a totally different mood. Yesterday I hadn't wanted Ellie to be there. Now, I wasn't so sure. What are you doing dragging your feet for? Hurry up. I heard a familiar voice behind my back. Kagome caught up to me and started walking by my side. What are you doing here? I was genuinely surprised. I'm not going to save my dad if I just sit around doing nothing, so I've decided to help you one last time. Help me? I smirked and quickened my pace. Aren't you ashamed at all? No, she said thoughtfully. Why would I be bothered about what happens to Kobayashi now when my plan has failed? But she didn't do anything to you. What's the point of this conversation? What are you going to do now, Nico-san? Will you let her go? Sure, that's what I wanted the most right now. It didn't seem right to tell Kagome as much. If they got the note, but didn't meet our demands, what else can I do? Keep pushing the idea with the documents and ransom, show up in Kobayashi Jun's office and give him our demands personally? But you aren't unhappy about it. Of course it's good not to feel like a criminal anymore, you know? Except I really doubt her granddad will be satisfied with it. As soon as Ellie tells who really kidnapped her, do you really think we can return to a normal life? My father's still being held hostage by the corporation. I don't know if he's alive. What kind of normal life can there be? She looked me in the eyes with a lingering question in her gaze. Right. Sorry. Didn't think about that. You didn't think? Kagome came closer to the Japanese decency aloud and suddenly smiled. It was getting colder outside with each passing day. And though the sun was heating the surface well enough to wear light clothing during the day, at night the earth cooled down, and the morning frost reminded of the coming winter more and more clearly. Miko-san? I spaced out for a moment, trying not to look at Kagome, and not to think of how to answer her. Fine. You haven't probably decided yet what a normal life is for you. As if anything depends on my decisions. I really didn't know what would happen next. In a way, so far, luck was on my side, but it would be foolish to think that Ellie's grandfather would just forgive me and forget about it. Didn't Kagome realize that herself? You could say her behavior was reckless, and she herself wasn't too smart. You could, but of course you have to have some luck in life, no two ways about it. You got lucky when you kidnapped Ellie. Lucky? She scoffed but kept walking next to me. What else would you call it? The right calculation? God, it doesn't matter. Don't nitpick, as if the choice of words changes anything. I'm just saying that you also had some luck. Here's a simple example for you. Most players on the stock market have the same knowledge and information, but only a few of them win in the end. What does that have to do with anything? What I mean is, it's entirely possible that you weren't the only one who tried to kidnap Ellie, but you were the one who succeeded. I have something to be proud of. Kagome smirked and finally stepped away from me. Suit yourself.